Keep going. No matter what you do, no matter how many times you screw up, and think to yourself, there's no point to carry on. No matter how many people tell you that you can't do it, keep going. Don't quit. Don't quit because a month from now you will be much closer to your goal than you are now. Yesterday you said tomorrow. Make today count. With this wonderful thought, a very good morning to all my dear students. I hope that you all are in good health. This is Shreya Jadhav and I welcome you all to my e-learning channel. Today we are going to learn English Grade 12 Supplementary Reading for The Enemy, written by Pearl S. Buck. So now let us go through and know something about the author. Pearl S. Buck, born on June 26, 1892, died March 6, 1973, also known by her Chinese name Cai Zhenzu, was an American writer and novelist. As the daughter of missionaries, Buck spent most of her childhood in China. Her novel The Good Earth was the best-selling fiction book in the United States in the year 1931-32. She was awarded the Nobel Prize on Literature for her rich and truly epic descriptions of peasant life in China and for her biographical masterpieces. She was the first American woman to win the Nobel Prize for Literature. So now let us move ahead and go through the introduction for answer. Prose name The Enemy. Author's name Pearl S. Buck. Genre short story. Summary. Dr. Sada was a famous Japanese surgeon and scientist. How he manages to fulfill his career and patriotism is highlighted in this story. So this is part 2 of chapter number 4, The Enemy. In the previous video, we all have seen the summary and the explanation for the same. Today, we shall start with the reading and explanation of the chapter line by line. So, without wasting much more time, let us quickly start. It is the time of the World War. An American prisoner of war is washed ashore in dying state and is found at the doorstep of a Japanese doctor. Should he save him as a doctor or hand him over to the army as a patriot? Dr. Sadao Hoke's house was built on a spot of a Japanese coast where as a little boy he had often played. The low, square stone house was set upon rocks, well above a narrow beach that was outlined with bent pipes. As a boy, Sadao had climbed the pines, supporting himself on his bare feet, as he had seen men do in the South Seas when they climbed their coconuts. His father had taken him often to the islands of those seas, and never had he failed to say to the little brave boy at his side, "Those islands yonder, they are the stepping stones to the future of the Japan. Where shall we step from them?" Sadao had asked seriously. "Who knows?" his father answered. "Who can limit our future? It depends on what we make." So this is an introduction of the chapter, a small summary sort of thing, or we can say a small incident of Dr. Sadao's childhood is been given over here. that in his childhood he has spent, his house was near a coastal area or sea shore. So at that time duration, he usually used to go with his father to the nearby islands. He was very much fascinated towards those things, and whenever he used to go, he used to get really very inspired. So by that time he always used to ask, and his father would tell, standing on the islands, he used to guide him or tell him that these are the stepping stones to the future of Japan. And Sada would ask him that where shall these steps take them? And the father unknowingly says that who knows, and yet he gives an inspiration to doctor that no one can limit the future. It is upon or up to us how we are managing, and it is dependent upon us how we utilize our own career. Sadav had taken this into his mind, as he did everything his father said. His father, who never joked or played with him, but who spent infinite pains upon him, who was his only son. Sadav knew that his education was his father's chief concern. For this reason, he had been sent at 22 to America to learn all that could be learned of surgery and medicine. He had come back at 30, and before his father died, he had seen Sadav become famous not only as a surgeon but as a scientist, because he was perfecting a discovery which would render wounds entirely clean. He had not been sent abroad with troops. Also, he knew there was some slight danger that the old general might need an operation for a condition which he was now being treated medically. And for this possibility, Sadav was kept in Japan. So now the description is given that how Sadav's father, he was not a very a jolly person. He was really very strict. He never used to make fun or have a good laugh with his son. But his father's only concern was his education, to make him give best of each and everything. And because of his focus, which not only doctor had in his mind or had in his eyes, but moreover to that we can say that his father also dreamt the same. At the age of 22, he was sent to America to learn everything related to medicine and surgery. It was 30 when he came back to Japan. So he had spent almost 8 years of his lifespan in America. And when before his father died, his father had seen him as a successful surgeon, not only as a surgeon but also as a great scientist. And we are talking about the time when World War II was going on, and at that time duration, best of the surgeons and doctors were sent to on field where the battles were going on, but doctor was kept behind because Japan's general was not in good health, was not keeping well eventually. So, and he was on his one or two experiments he was working upon. So he was kept behind because it might be a chance that the general might need an operation because he was suffering from some diseases. Clouds were rising from the ocean now. The unexpected warmth of the past few days had at night drawn heavy fog from the cold waves. Sadav watched the mists hide outlines of the little island near the shore, and then come creeping up the beach below the house. Wreathing around the pines, in few minutes Fog would be wrapped about the house too. Then he would go into the room where Hannah, his wife, would be waiting for him with the two children. But at this moment the door opened and she looked out, a dark blue woolen haro over her kimono. She came to him affectionately and put her arms through his as he stood, smiled, and said nothing. He had met Hannah in America, but he had waited to fall in love with her until he was sure she was Japanese. His father would never have received her unless she had been pure in her race. She wondered often whom he would have married if he had not met Hannah. By what luck he had found her in the most casual way. By chance, literary, at an American professor's house. The professor and his wife had been kind people anxious to do something for their new foreign students, and the students, though bored, had accepted this kindness. Sadao had often told Hannah how nearly he had gone to Professor Harley's house that night. The rooms were so small, the food so bad. Professor's wife was wobble. But he had gone there and he had found Hannah, a new student who had left her. He would love her if it were all possible. So now Dr. Sadao is his life when he was in America. He's sharing his story, and a bit of present scenario has also been highlighted over here. That the cold winds were arriving, so because of that there might be a foggy atmosphere very soon in the surrounding, and at that time duration Dr. Sadao's wife Hannah is entering the room and she is going near the veranda where the doctor is standing, and he is recalling back that how the very first time he met Hannah at an American professor's house, and at first only he thought that there might be a possibility that they could have a future together, but he never revealed it until and unless he was sure that she was a pure Japanese. Otherwise his father wouldn't have accepted them, and he was thinking that if he had not found Hannah, then who would it be? Or likewise, there might be no chance or possibility for anyone to come in his life. Now he felt her hands on his arm and was aware of the pleasure it gave him. Even though they had been married years enough to have the two children, for they had not married heedlessly in America. They had finished their work at school and had come home to Japan. And when his father had seen her, the marriage had been arranged in the old Japanese way. Although Sadao and Hannah had talked everything over beforehand, they were perfectly happy. She laid her cheek against his arm. So now eventually what happened? It was not like that they were newly married couple. They had two children. But moreover to that, they had not got married in America. They had returned back to their hometown. They met each other's family. They got married in old Japanese way, and they were a perfect couple, we can say, in all manners. It was at this moment that both of them saw something black come out of the mists. It was a man. He was flung up out of the ocean. Flung, it seemed, to his feet by a breaker. He staggered a few steps, his body outlined against the mist, his arms above his head. Then he curled mists and hid him again. "Who is that?" Hannah cried. She dropped Sadao's arm, and they both leaned over the railing of the veranda. Now they saw him again. The man was on his hands and knees crawling. Then they saw him fall on his face and lie there. A fisherman, perhaps, Sadav said, washed from his boat. He ran quickly down the steps, and behind him Hannah came, her wide sleeves flying. A mile or two away, on either side, there were fishing villages, but here was only a bare and lonely coast, dangerous with rocks. The surf beyond the beach was spiked with rocks. Somehow the man had managed to come through them. He must be badly torn. They saw, when they came towards him, that indeed it was so. The sand on one side of him had already a stain of red soaking through. So now eventually the main incident of the story is been starting. As they both were standing in their veranda, they saw that something black was coming out of the mist. And they soon realized that it was a man. Sadao told that it might be a fisherman, because in the mile or two away there were fishing villages, but the place where they were living, it was a lonely coast and it had very dangerous with rocks. So there might be possibility that the person might have got some sort of injuries in his body. And when they went over there, at that time they saw that one side of the sand was totally soaked red. It was staining red. He is wounded, Sadao exclaimed. He made haste to the man, who lay motionless, his face in the sand, an old cap stuck in his head, soaked with sea water. He was in wet rags of garments. Sadao stopped, Hannah at his side, and turned the man's head. They saw the face. A white man, Hannah whispered. Yes, it was a white man. The wet cap fell away, and there was his wet yellow hair, long as though for many weeks it had not been cut. And upon his young and tortured face was a rough yellow beard. He was unconscious and knew nothing that they did for him. Now Sadav remembered the wound, and with his expert fingers he began to search for it. Blood flowed freshly at his touch. On the right side of his lower back, Sadav saw that the gun wound had been reopened. The flesh was blackened with powder. Sometime, not many days ago, the man had been shot and had not been tended. It was a bad chance that the rock had struck the wound. Oh, how he is bleeding, Hannah whispered again in a solemn voice. The mist screened them now completely, and this time of the day no one came by. The fisherman had gone home, and even the chance beachcombers would have considered the day at an end. So now eventually what happened? They both, Hannah and Dr. Sadav, tried to see the face of the person, and they soon realized that he was a white man, means he was an American. He was having yellow beard and yellow hair. And at that time duration, what doctors first thought was that he was bleeding a lot. What to do? So he thought that he might have run from the prison, and the bullet was shot at that time duration because that wound was still fresh, and he was stuck with a rock also, so he was injured more. Moreover to that, the fishermen might have also gone back to their places, as it was they have declared the end of the day. What shall we do with this man? Sadav muttered, but his trained hands seemed of their own will be to doing what they would to snatch the fearful bleeding. He packed the wound with the sea moss that strewed the beach. The man moaned with pain in his stupor, but he did not awaken. The best thing that we could do would be to put him back in the sea, Sadao said, answering himself. Now that the bleeding was stopped for the moment, he stood up and dusted the sand from his hands. Yes, undoubtedly that would be best, Hannah said steadily, but she continued to stare down at the motionless man. If we sheltered a white man in our house, we should be arrested, and if we turned him over a prisoner, he would certainly die, Sadao said. So now the first thought when doctor saw that he was a white man, he didn't thought of handing him over to the army. Yes, because he thought that his first moral duty was as a doctor. So he somehow found a sea moss and put on his wound to just stop the bleeding. And what could be the best solution for him? Either to throw him back in the sea, then he would die over there. If they would treat him, then it would be that they have taken the steps against the nation. Moreover to that, if they would hand them over to the army, then also he would be dead. The kindest thing would be to put him back into the sea, Hannah said, but neither of them moved. They were staring with a curious repulsion upon the inert figure. What is he? Hannah whispered. There is something about him that looks American, Sadao said. He took up the battered cap. Yes, there, almost gone, was the faint lettering. A sailor, he said, from an American warship. He spelled it out. US Navy. The man was a prisoner of war. He has escaped, Hannah cried softly, and that is why he is wounded. In the back, Sadao agreed. They hesitated, looking at each other. Then Hannah said with resolution, Come, are we able to put him back into the sea? If I am able, are you? Sadao asked. No, Hannah said, but if you can do it alone. Sadao hesitated again. The strange thing is, he said, that if the man were whole, I would turn him over to the police without difficulty. I care nothing for him. He is my enemy. All Americans are my enemy. And he is only a common fellow. You see how foolish his face is. But since he is wounded, you also cannot throw him back to the sea, Hannah said. Then there is only one thing to do. We must carry him into the house. But the servants, Sadao inquired. So eventually now both the husband and wife are in a confusion what to do, whether to keep him or to throw him away. Moreover to that, doctor said that if his condition was good enough, then he would surely and definitely would hand him over to the police. But his condition is not good. He is wounded, and they cannot throw him into the back to the sea. So both of them are deciding to take him and to carry him into the house. At that time, Sadao is asking question to Hannah. What about the servants? What are we going to tell them about this? We must simply tell them that we intended to give him to the police. As indeed we must, Sadao. We must think of the children and your position. It would endanger all of us if we did not give this man over a prisoner of war. Certainly, Sadao agreed. I would not think of doing anything else. Dusk agreed. Together, they lifted the man. He was very light, like a fowl that had been half starved for a long time, until it is only feathers and skeleton. So, his arms hanging, they carried him up the steps and into the side door of the house. This door opened into a passage, and down the passage they carried the man towards an empty bedroom. It had been the bedroom of Sadav's father, and since his death it had not been used. They laid the man on the deeply matted floor. Everything here had been Japanese to please the old man, who would never in his own home sit on a chair or sleep in foreign bed. Hannah went to the wall cupboards and slid back the door and took out a soft quilt. She hesitated. The quilt was covered with flowered silk and lining of pure white silk. "He is so dirty," she murmured in distress. "Yes, he had better be washed," Sadav agreed. "If you will fetch hot water, I will wash him." "I can't bear for you to touch him," she said. "We shall have to tell the servants he is here." "I will tell Yumi now. She can leave the children for a few minutes and she can wash him." Sadav considered a moment. "Let it be so," he agreed. "You tell Yumi and I will tell the others." But the utter pallor of man's unconscious face moved him first to stoop and feel his pulse. It was faint, but it was there. He put his hand against the man's cold breast. The heart was yet alive. "He will die unless he is operated on," Sadav said, considering. "The question is whether he will not die anyway." Hannah cried out in fear. "Don't try to save him. What if he should live?" "What if he should die?" Sadav replied. He stood gazing. So eventually what happened, that they brought him into the house. They took the American prisoner of war into the room where Dr. Sadav's father used to stay, and it was a typical Japanese style room. Nothing of English or modern furniture was put in the room. And at that time duration, Hannah took a soft quilt for the men to lie down, but he was really very dirty. So doctor told that if she could fetch hot water, then he would wash. At that time Hannah is refusing, that she cannot bear that he would wash that person. They would ask the servants to do, but before telling the servants to do that thing, they were supposed to inform them that they had an American in the home, and that would be a tough situation also. So both of them mutually decided that Hannah would tell Yumi, who was the governess for the children, and Dr. Sadav would tell the other servants that they were having an unknown or uninvited guest. "What if he should die?" Sadav replied. He stood gazing down on the motionless man. This man must have extraordinary vitality, or he would have been dead by now. But then he was very young, perhaps not even 25. "You mean die from the operation?" Hannah asked. "Yes," Sadav said. So now Dr. Sadav checked that whether his condition was good or not. Somehow Dr. Sadav was able to find out the pulse. They were really very slow and weak. He checked his cold breast. The heartbeats were going on. The doctor said that no doubt this person had survived a lot. This person have a really very great strength. Otherwise, it would be very difficult for any other person. And that person might be dead by now. But still, he is surviving. But now he is supposed to be operated. Otherwise, he would die for sure. So, today we are keeping it till here. In the next video lecture, we shall proceed with the reading and explanation of the chapter. I hope that you all have understood the chapter till now. Thank you for watching and have a nice day, everyone.